Welcome back to Two Canadians at Kafe Lise, a Vigor podcast, episode 48. I'm one of your hosts, Dr. Anton, and with me is the other host, DJ Spencer.
Hello.
Hello. It's been a while. We apologize. It was mostly my fault because during the summer, ended up buying a condo and then moving, so that took up a lot of time. So I haven't been able to stream, and we missed a podcast recording, but we're back now. This one's a little late again, just because getting everything set up took a little extra time. But we're here.
It's all understandable, and I it's not all on you because I had to leave town for a personal matter too. The weekend we were supposed to record, so it's fine. Life happens, right? We're this is a hobby that we really enjoy, but obviously real life takes precedence, and moving is not small feat, right? So
no,
congrats on the new condo.
Thank you, and this is why I have this weird background that doesn't fully work because of how I don't have a green screen, so it's like a little patchy. It comes and goes, but it's better than seeing what is back there right now. Yeah, yours works a bit better because you do have a green screen, so I need to get a green screen. That's what it says.
It's still not the best, but it works. It's a little better.
It works. Yeah, for sure.
Anyways,
but this episode, we're going to be doing a little tier list. We figured we're trying to decide what we're going to do, and we figured, well, we haven't done a ranking before. Like we've talked about the different maps, we've talked about weapons, but to do an actual ranking of something, that'll be a first for us here.
We did kind of rank the machine guns a few episodes ago.
I guess we did kind of rank the machine guns.
Yeah,
when we were talking about the big LMG. Or the MG.
Prior to the nerve. Sorry, not the nerve. Prior to the buff too, which is kind of funny.
Yeah. But we didn't do it this way. I guess we didn't do an actual, a tier list. So this is going to be new. And so we figured let's do that. Let's go through the maps. So we're going to go through the maps. We each are going to have a tier list beside us here, and live as we're recording this, we'll and doing this, we're just going to go for it. We'll each give our rankings to each of the maps as we go.
Yeah.
And and DJ's made a template, which we'll put a link to the bottom if you want to use it yourself. It has all the Polaroids. We grabbed the Polaroids out of Vigor and put them in there. So as of season 13. So last one really being Kjerstin, Kjerstin.
Yeah.
So there hasn't been any new maps since this point. So. Mm-hmm. And maybe we can even up to date it if new maps come out. If we remember, we could try to update it. So
100%. I'm excited to see if any of our listeners, viewers, what their opinions are, if they do come up with their own rankings and share it with us, because I'm kind of curious, right? Because it's all Doc and I were talking about it beforehand. It's like, how do we do this? And it's like pretty much it's like we're going to be doing personal preference for like every map, so it's exciting. Actually, Doc, I forgot to share this a little earlier when you were talking about like the little mini break. Believe it or not, I don't know if I want to say the person's name, but I actually got a Discord message this morning. I woke up to a Discord message, and they were actually asking about the podcast and if we were on break or a hiatus or what the deal was. And I'm not kidding. Like I legit, and I was like, apologies. I'm like, no, like I've had personal stuff going on, and I'm like, Doc, bought a condo, he moved. So I'm like, he's still setting up. And I'm like, I was like, what are the chances? Because literally tonight, like, this was like
as we're about to record
16 hours ago or whatnot, and it's like I'm like, we're recording tonight. So I was like, I thought it was hilarious. But yeah,
that's cool.
Thank you to that cool person. They're excited to like actually tune in on their drive to and from work type thing. So I forgot to mention it to you and whatnot. Sorry.
No, yeah. That's awesome. And I think I saw also on your last stream, someone was asking about it. So people are inquiring. Yeah. We need to get better at communicating, I guess, when we're not going to be, if we're going to be missing an episode or if an episode is going to be a little late. So we need to get better at communicating that. So we'll work on that. Because I think there's also ways to send those messages out. Well, actually, no, it might depend on your level when it comes to YouTube. So I don't think we have a high enough subscription level to be able to send messages to people. But we can still tweet out like we normally tweet the episodes as they come out. We could send out tweets saying, "Hey, we're late. We're missing it up because yada yada." But yeah, for sure. But yeah, so and as a reminder, please like, share, subscribe, and comment as DJ mentioned. If you do use our little template and create a list, show us, that'd be great. We actually found that there was a couple others out there, but they're older and they don't have all the pictures, so ours have all the pictures right now.
And like Doc said, we'll try to keep it up to date if and when new maps are added. So
yeah, and if we start making other ones, just like if we actually start to decide to do tier lists of weapons as opposed to ranking like we did before, if we actually use this tier list method again, then we'll let you know when we have additional tier formats or templates, I guess. Yeah. But yeah, let's just get right into it. We have our two tiers. We're both using obviously the same one.
Okay.
But yeah, we're just going to go alphabetical. So we're just going to go across the list and we'll talk about each map and how we rank them.
Yep.
Okay, do you want to start us off?
So we'll go alphabetically. We're going to start off with Anniken. So Anniken came out with, well, first of all, with eliminations. I believe it was season 4. But then the actual encounter map, right? Season 5 Junkers, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, history-wise.
Yeah. That's when they made an actual map. Yeah.
Yeah. So very open area, not a lot of trees and whatnot. It's a mid-sized map, but it feels kind of small at times. I don't know about you, Doc. I'm actually really liking Anniken right now. We've talked about it. It has everything. In my opinion, it has some good loot. I think I had told you maybe the last podcast episode or in like a stream or something, but there was one evening for the full 45 minutes that it was up, I was coming out with less than 10k in loot value, and I was always getting like 2-3 kills, maybe even a threat in there too. So it literally has everything. I love it. So I think it's not the perfect map, but I am sticking it in the A tier.
Okay. Yeah, for me, I do like Anniken, but it's not. I don't. For me, it's probably like a mid-tier map for me. So, it's not my first choice, but it depends on what it comes out with. I guess what else is out there, and on occasion I do like just to go there because it's still a kind of fun map. You can do some good sniping with it. It's a lot smaller than something like Fjellkanten, which is like, when it comes to sniping, Fjellkanten's like a huge snipe map and really, really long sight lines. Anniken's smaller. You can get some really good sight lines on it, but it's also not impossible to hide from people with it too. So, but when it comes to in my order of rankings, for me, it's like a mid tier. So I'm going to stick it in B.
Okay.
B level. Here we go. The next one we have is the first battery, the springtime battery Draug. We just did battery not too long ago, and we did our maps. It was we did both batteries at the same time, though I wouldn't necessarily rank them. I guess in a 5-tier system, that might get ranked pretty close together. But I do definitely have a preference from one battery to another. Draug is probably out of the two my least favorite of the two. I kind of like the Snodekt a bit better. But Battery is still a really good map to go to. And as we mentioned in our last map episode for it, when we were doing a bunch of runs on Battery, I had found it wasn't nearly as sweaty as it used to be, because it was like one of the sweatiest maps at one time. Now maybe that's changed a bit because I haven't played much since. But there are definitely at the time seemed a lot sweatier maps. Like if you go to maybe Fiske or something, Fjell used to be is pretty sweaty too. Batterie seems to have dropped down in sweat, but still having still having a lot of good loot, because you can still get some really good loot runs out of Batterie, because there's a lot of good pockets of loot throughout the map. You just have to be, it's like one of those maps where you have to be really careful in the middle sections, because that's typically where there's less cover, and that's where a lot of the fighting seems to happen, is in the middle of the map. But you go around the outskirts, you just, as a looter, you can stay pretty safe, I think. So I would still, let's say, rank it lower than, say, Anniken. So for Draug, for me, I would think it's a bit of it's like a D tier to me. It's a good map, but it's not my first choice. It's going to be one of my last choices to go to.
So D tier?
Yeah, for me it's D, which is bad,
wow.
right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it like there are maps I like better, like for sure. Like I'm ranking it based on how often am I going to go there, and Batterie's one of the least ones I'm going to go to, even though I don't mind it. It's going to be like one of my last choices.
I'm not like totally in disagreement with you, but I'm kind of curious. I'm sure you'll get to your explanation, the difference between Snodekt and Draug, but for me they're pretty much the same thing. Like locked exits, no locked exits. To me, it's not much difference, and loot wise feels the same. But for me, same thing. I'm not a big fan of it. What's nice is it is kind of small. It used to be where if you're all the way up north or down south and you had to make it all the way to the other side, is like you could make it. Now it's a little iffy with the new radiation and whatnot. It's a little tougher. It's getting it close. But for me, it's like, it's very, like you talked about the pockets of loot, and it's like, if you don't get one of those spawns close to it, and like you said, it's not that sweaty lobby as what it used to be. So you're getting more looters, or people who, they don't mind looting.
Yep.
So if you don't get those close spawns to those like good loot spots, you might be losing out, right? So for me, that's why it's not as good as a map for loot, because it's kind of situational on that, and it's not a big lobby. It's nice that it's not a big lobby because it's not super sweaty, but at the same time, it's like if people want to go for those big kills, they can. But for me, I'm putting Batterie. Oh wait, I'm I'm trying to move like my screen share version of the tier maker and not the actual browser version. I am moving Batterie to C tier for kind of all those reasons. Kind of like you. It's not one of my preferred ones, and honestly, I'd kind of mentioned that I'm going to lump them both together. I'm actually putting Snodekt for the same reasons, C tier as well. So
yeah, that's fair. So if we're just looking at Snodekt, because obviously there's not much more to say about Snodekt, but I guess the reason I like Snodekt a bit more is everything's not as camouflaged, right? So unless someone dresses all in white, that's someone who's really out, customizing their outfit for the environment. Most of the time, it's easier to see somebody, I think, in the snow versions of maps.
Yep.
And so that's why I kind of like it a bit better. Yeah, it's a little bit easier to see people with the springtime maps or the regular maps. It's a lot easier to blend in, so it can be harder to find them. And the fact that there's no locked exits on the snow one does make it a little easier. I do like the concept of the locked exits, but the fact that Draug has like 4 locked exits and there's only one that isn't is a bit much. It would have been kind of all right if they had 1 or 2 locked exits on Snodekt. But yeah, so
mind you, like someone like yourself or myself, right? We don't mind looting, so it's like getting 10 wire to like unlock an exit, or 20 wire to unlock an exit, or 3 or 5 fuel. No, 5 fuel, I think. For the boats, it's like
electronics
that's
and some points too.
It's like I don't mind the locked exit, but yeah, it's same thing.
Yeah, and so like really like they're right next to each other. Can you do halves? You can't really do halves in this. So it's either going to be deer, like it's right in between C and D, but it's probably going to be really a. Actually, no, I'm going to stick it in C. I'm going to stick it in C just because I like it a little bit better than Draug.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I kind of figured that's what you're going to do. And you're right. That's a good shout out about like there's not a ton of evergreen trees. On Batterie, so it's like the bushes aren't as bushy, camouflagey or whatnot.
That's camouflagey. Yeah, exactly.
Yes,
because they don't have so much greenery. Yeah.
Yes. All right. So I guess it's my turn.
Might as well, because Snodekt there wasn't really much to say because we already said it with Draug.
So next is Brodalen Bridges. Brodalen, huge map, big lobbies. This one, I'm not gonna lie, I struggle a bit with this one. I don't play it a ton. It does have some really good loot spots, but my issues with Brodalen, it just seems like you're running for anything. Like, it is so big that it feels like you're running for loot, or you're running for kills, or you're running for like the POIs. Like, it is very sparsed out. Like, in a way I like it, but in other ways I don't like it. So honestly, I think for all those reasons, like I'm kind of sticking it in C tier just because of that. It's very mixed bag for me, and it's hard to get like a proper beat on how I feel about it. And honestly, for those reasons, like I don't play a ton of it. So
okay,
I think I'm going to stick it in C.
And C, okay. For me, Brodalen is actually one that I'll go to quite often. Like if it's up, I'll go to it.
Okay.
I like it. It is. It's huge, like you said. If you start on one side of the map, the chances of you getting to the other side of the map are pretty slim in a match because it's that big. So if you're like at the very bottom and you find the picture and it's like way at the top, it's like and then you're like, it's a big trek. But if you're not as worried about doing something like that, you can stick to a section of that map and loot pretty well. Like there can be quite like certain areas have quite a bit of loot. Like if you're in the bottom section, there's a bunch of houses, and you can make a good little trip to just following like the different plantations and such, and finding a lot of loot. If you start in the middle area, like the camp, or closer to the other side of the river by Cafe, the blue Kafe Lise in the middle. There's a red Kafe Lise just down south a bit. If you start in the middle, you can find some, you can cut your way across and get quite a bit of loot. Maybe even get a bunch of fights, because there's always a lot of fighting around the middle. If you're in the upper or lower sections, you can definitely find some fights as for other people who are in those areas. But the sweats are usually going, running for the middle or running for the lootable POIs, right? So, or for signals or wherever. So, I like the variation on the map, because it really, depending on where you start, you're going to have a different game, which is kind of cool. There's a lot of maps where no matter where you start, it's all pretty much the same, right? Whereas this one, if you're in the bottom, it's a bottom game. If you're on the top, it's a top game. It's like, and maybe you'll get some middle in there. So that's why I kind of like it. So for me, it does rank a lot higher. I actually would say I'd rank it in the, I think I'd make it an A tier. It's an A tier for me.
Ooh.
Yeah. It's one of my top ones. Yeah.
Nice.
So that is Brodalen. Next, you started that one, so I'm starting the next one, which is Dverg Forest. Another really big map, almost as big as Brodalen. It's pretty close. You can't, though it is quite possible to start at the very top and make your way to the very bottom. But it is a long trek. But during that trek, if you know your paths, your loot paths, you'll come out with a lot of loot. And this one is the one that's fuel. Like, no one needs as much fuel as you'll get out of this map, because if you keep hitting this map and going for fuel, you'll have so much fuel in your shelter that you'll be running for ages. That generator is never stopping. So
nope.
You're just contributing to the problem.
The only issue is well, not an issue, but the only thing to note I find is, since they did the loot distribution this season, I find it's like there's still a ton of fuel, but it's not as plentiful as before. Because like I remember like having like 3-4 boosts, maybe 5 boosts, and like almost like filling up my whole inventory. And now it's like it's maybe like half full of fuel. So that's the only. But yeah, you're right. Like a ton of fuel to be had.
Yeah, sure, they've cut it down, but it's still a lot. And
actually, Chem's got like a nice little buff too, I find.
That's true. I did notice that chems have been better on this map. And it's a snow map, and it seems like I really like the snow maps more than I thought I would. Like, I just really like the snow maps. So that's kind of cool. There's a lot of good areas. Like, if you want some good fighting, you can stay in the middle, but then you can snipe on this map, you can hide on this map. It's all over the place. Lots in the dig spots, man. They're so, like, all the maps have a lot of dig spots, but this one just seems to have, I don't know if it's more or not, but a lot of dig spots. And it's one where you have there's that one lighter that I think might be exclusive to this one, right? Yeah, is it? It's okay. So I don't know.
Wolf lighter.
The wolf lighter, yeah. So this one is like, I think tied. I have probably 2 in my S tier, and this would probably be one of them. So Dverg Forest is one of my S tier. My first S tier. Yeah, I'm all over the board here. I'm
no, up and down. That's the way it should be.
Yeah,
right? So a lot of good points, Doc. Like you mentioned, it's a big lobby. Depending on what other maps are up, you could get like a full sweaty lobby here. But like, the loot is so tempting that like literally any type of player, loves, in my opinion, loves Dverg, but I'm sure some people would be intimidated. Even with the distances, like, it still feels somewhat small. Like, it's weird. I don't know if you know what I mean, but
no, it does. Yeah, it doesn't feel as big as like Brodalen does, but it is a big map. Yeah.
But it's like, I've died so many times to radiation on this map, and part of that is because of the elevations. The rocky hills, especially if you're going east-west type thing. That's where, for the most part, I've died. You get the drop in the middle type thing, and then you try to go and just kind of mistime it. But like I said, loot is fantastic. Big lobbies if you want to go for kills or whatnot. But there, you kind of mentioned a lot of trees. There are a lot of evergreen trees, so it's not like bushes that are like transparent type thing. I love it, but I'm putting it in A tier. So it's high up there. I definitely play it a lot, but for me, it's not S tier. It's super close. It's super close, but there's a couple other maps that, in my opinion, for me, are S tier. But it is a very, very good map.
Okay.
Okay. Next is Fiske Fabrikk. So Fiske is a massive map. It is a very how do we say it? Varied in the terrains and the landscape. Like, there's mountainous areas. There's kind of like a residential area. There's like an industrial area, forested area. Like, there's like a car tunnel. like it is. There's so much going on. You could snipe. You could do close quarter combat. There's loot spots, but like they're kind of concentrated in that like East Coast, Northeast Coast, where all the buildings are for the most part,
Yeah.
and in that little residential area. This map here, another big lobby, and this map is super sweaty. I find no matter what, it doesn't matter what other maps are in the rotation. But for me, it's like if you get one of those spawns in the southwest corner type thing in the mountains or whatnot, it just feels like you're running so much for the whole encounter type thing. And even though you can get a couple of quick fights, there's a couple of loot spots there, but it's just like a lot of running. And for all these kind of reasons, I'm kind of sticking it in the middle. I'm going to put it as a B tier. Because it's good for some loot, but it's very situational, right? Like good chems, good glass all along the coast. But that middle exit, prior to this season, I find it was tough, that locked exit, because it is very situational. If you could get the enough fuel to actually it's just 5 fuel, and it was situational.
And there's not a lot of fuel in that map.
But with the loot redistribution this season, I find it's a lot easier.
Okay.
But it's still like risky. Because if you're stuck at the boss's office and like radiation's coming, if you're not gone before it hits you, like you're really cutting it close. So because it is a long distance if you don't have that fuel.
And that locked exit, you quite often you have people camping it, like watching it, waiting for people to try to use it. And it is pretty open when you get out there. You're trying to get to the boat and unlock it. So that's one of the reasons why it's definitely a lower tier map for me. Just because it is a very sweaty map. People do like to go for it for combat. When you're up when you're up in the hills, there's not a lot of loot unless there's like a lootable POI out there. So you're really running for the town, and then the town is where everyone typically is. So you're going to run into people. Maybe if you're on the the western little area that's by itself, you can get some good loot there. But there's usually at least 1 or 2 other people starting there too. So there's a good chance of running into people there too. So for me, Kjerstin's one of my lower ones. It is again not one that I would go to first. Oh, I meant Fisk. I'm sorry, I said Kjerstin. I meant Fisk. I don't know why. I don't know why I got messed that up. But for me, Fisk is a D tier.
Okay.
Next is Fjellkanten. Fjellkanten. It's another odd duck. I like the map, but it is so snipery. It's very snipery because there's so many hills that have total view of what's going on around them, and across to other hills. So it's very common to see snipers out there. Really good for food, and I think it still is, because I was even running in there the other day. I was trying to finish my my Zero to Hero monthly quest, and I went in, and actually I finished it with this map, where I had to run out with a go in with nothing and come out with a full backpack.
Okay.
So I lucked out with this map, and I totally finished it. But it's really kind of sketchy if you're if you're anywhere in the middle areas, you got to be careful, because people could be looking down to try to snipe you. And it's actually quite a long map to go from the top to the bottom, or so if you need to, for some reason, go across the map, it's going to take you a long time. But it is still a really good map, and it's still has I think good feelings, because I think it's like the first map I ever got a threat on, so that was something too.
Nice.
But so for this one, I think I rank it right in the middle again, like it's up there with Anniken. So I have it as a B.
Okay.
Mid tier for me.
For me, this one, it's one of my favorite maps. Like I always tell people, it's one of my 3 favorite maps. This one's tough. It's either going to be S or A, but like if you're not if you don't enjoy sniping, I could totally understand why someone wouldn't like it. I certainly enjoy sniping. I may not be the best, but it is certainly fun. I find the loot is actually pretty good, especially with like the loot redistribution this season too. It kind of like buffed it a little bit. Good chem spots. If there's actually quite a bit of fuel, starting because of the distribution again. And like you said, really good food. I like the way that it plays for the most part. Because you can get that quick fight, and then after that, it's like you're running off, but you're not going too far for usually the next one. But if you don't want to necessarily go for that next fight, it's like you could do whatever you want. I'm not gonna lie, like I'm kind of tormented by this. I feel like I don't know. I want to put it. You know what? I'm going to put all my favorite maps S tier. So
S tier.
Fjellkanten, yeah, I'm going to put it S tier. Yeah, it's just fantastic. It's a lot of fun. We have some different play styles, and it's like it's totally understandable, right? So, but I enjoy sniping. It's a ton of fun. So it just.
Yeah, and they do have the 2 underground cave systems, which a lot of people don't like, but then I do kind of I really do like them. Yeah. So it's that can really affect things too. I do like those cave systems. I know they're controversial, and then they added a 1 exit in the one, which is also kind of interesting. People do tend to like to camp that exit sometimes, because I don't think there's no such thing as crows with that exit. So it's like
there's no exit camper thing.
Yeah, not that one.
What if they did bats? It's in a cave.
That'd be kind of neat, actually.
Put bats in.
But then you'd have to make the range a lot smaller, because it's went from one exit to the thing. It might maybe like halfway down the halls is when maybe you might trigger it.
And maybe part of the problem too is the radius doesn't have like a height or a bottom type thing. So if someone's in the cave, but then someone's up on top of the hill, maybe technically with the current setup, maybe it would set off like the crows or the bats in this case.
I wonder if they could limit it though to a straight just axis, whatever, like so they have to be everyone's at the same level kind of thing.
Maybe, because like if you think about the radiation grenades, right? It does go up and down and both ways, and it's basically circular. So maybe they could set something up. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know either, but that would be kind of interesting.
Yes. So that's Fjellkanten. I believe it's my turn, right? That was you?
Yes. Yep.
Okay, so next on the list, Grontheim Valley. So Grontheim Valley, it is a long map. There's only 5 exits, 2 at the north, 2 at the south, and then the infamous, I guess, middle exit where you have to do 2 jumps. And I've been playing this game for like 2.5 years, or maybe a bit more, and I'm not gonna lie, that exit always plays mind games with me. It's like I've gotten out, but it's like I still don't want to go out that way. I will take my chances, try to go either exit. There is either side, north and south for the most part. It's kind of like a wooded area, except for like the northeast side. You have the warehouse area, and then you head into downtown, and then you have another warehouse on the other side in the middle, as well, with like a little bit of residential area. It is one of the smaller lobbies, and I don't want to say it's complained, but for me, the loot lacks on
Yeah.
Grontheim. You literally, it's not that the spawn points are an issue. It's you could go into a building that you know that there's a dresser there that always has like, you know, like glass. And
Yep.
any other map, you might get 3 or 4 glass out of that one
You get like
dresser.
one.
You get one. And it doesn't
Yep.
matter like which resource or whatever, it's usually the same thing.
Yeah.
So literally like you have to work for your loot, and it's like I've had runs where it's like I've looted almost all the buildings on the one side, and it's like I might have 6,000 in loot value, and it's like I've worked so hard just for this. But it's like for me, it's like small lobby. The spawn points, they could be kind of strange because sometimes you could get a spawn point at the south and no one is near you. Like they could be mid map, the next closest one. And especially when you're playing duos and trios, like there's been times where like every other team has been all the way up north and we've been the only team down south. So like you're just running a lot. I don't know. Aesthetically, I love Grontheim. There is a lot to love about Grontheim. I just kind of wish that, you know, point of interest and even like the loot events, there'd be different spawn points where they might be spread out more throughout the maps. But yeah, for that, all those reasons, everything except for you know, the aesthetics. I just Grontheim's D tier for me.
Like first D tier.
I'm kind of rough on it. And it's funny because I will actually play Grontheim like often. I'm not going to say like all the time when it's up. I just find like we talked about it when we did the Grontheim episode. Grontheim is a good map where it's like if I'm having a rough night on Vigor, I will go to this map because it's a slow pace for the most part. And it's kind of like a confidence builder type thing. So that's why. But that's why it's just D tier for me for all those other reasons. So
I think maybe a little bit more favorable with it. I do I will go to it over other maps for sure. But yeah, I know what you mean. And it is definitely one, if the bell rings and you're in the middle of the map, you got to run because it's deceptively, it's really long. You know, it doesn't may not seem it, but it takes a while if you're in the middle to get to one of the ends. And so if radiation's starting to come, you don't have a lot of time to dawdle. You have to get going. And especially if you aren't going to use the middle tier or the jump map exit, or you can't because someone's cut the rope, then you have to make the run for it. But other than that, I do really like the map, and usually when, you know, depending where you start, there's usually one person starting near you, so you might be able to get if you're looking for some combat right away, you can quite often. But yeah, if you're doing duels and trios, that's a whole different thing because when it's a smaller map, when it's a long map like this, and you're limited to 8 people, and it's usually because of the water takes up a lot of processing in this map. There's a good chance that you could have a duo or a trio off by themselves and they'll be running forever trying to find everybody and the combat will already be done most likely. So but yeah, it's more of a mid-tier map for me. I still like it over others, and even though the loot can be not as good as others, with a few boosts it gets pretty decent still. And
but see you say with boost, but it's like I've had like, let's say 3 times boosted lobby, and that one glass becomes 3, and I'm just like, come on, I'm like, give me some more.
But there are, sure, the houses may not get huge amounts of loot, but you can still find decent loot with it. Depending where it all depends. Like it all depends on where you go on this map. Because there are certain houses that loot better than others, for sure. Like a lot of the town houses, like the in the central town area, like when you go through those houses, most of them are pretty lacking for loot. But then when you go to some of the other houses, like say in the southern west area, those ones aren't too bad usually. Like you can get some all right loot out of those ones. So it does matter, I guess. It depends on their distribution. When you have a whole dense number of houses like that in one area, they sort of spread it out, and yeah, it just seems like you have to go through every house to get decent loot for sure.
Yeah.
But yeah, I still rank it mid tier for me, so I put it as a B.
Okay. So here's a question too. Grontheim is probably the map I've died the most to radiation. What about you?
Well, I definitely have. I'm just trying to think if there's one I might have died more often. You know what? No, it's probably Grontheim.
Because that's part of the. I don't want to say it's part
because
of the
there's
reason,
no yeah, other than the middle exit, yeah, the other exits are so far away. Whereas with most other maps, even if they're large, the exits are generally evenly distributed around the map, right? So it's not hard to get to an exit on most maps. This is probably the one that has the toughest thing. So I do get that for sure.
Okay.
And it's probably the one I've died the most to as well for radiation. Yeah.
Nemesis.
Next. Now we're on Kjerstin.
Yes.
And Kjerstin's an interesting map. Like it has a lot of neat ideas in it. I like the dam. I like the concept of the dam running through it and the different elevators and all that. But in the end of the day, the dam it has okay loot, but it's not huge loot. And if you're trying to do the time safe, it can be a real pain. Because it can be hard to find those two switches. I think sometimes I know where they are, but other times there's like I have no clue. And then the rest of the map, it's like you got a real open middle area of the map. Again, almost like some like Fjell in some ways. And so I don't want to run in that middle area because I figure there's always someone watching me from the trees and up on either side of the hills. So it's one of those ones where it's a cool map, but it's not high on my list. It's I think it's more of for me it's a C tier. Like I put it in the C tier. That's not the bottom. I like it better than the bottom ones, but not near the top, that's for sure.
I don't think we differ much in opinion on this one. Because it's a pretty big map. Like the lobby is actually decent size. For me, depending on the spawn points, like you could get some really good loot runs, but like I'm thinking if you have like one of the spawns in the southwest corner, it's like you could get like all those houses with a lot of good loot. The issue is there's a lot of close spawn points, and if you win that one or two fight or combat, it's like you're kind of on easy street for a little bit where you could actually get a lot of good loot runs. Like I said, there's also kind of like the two buildings kind of like on the western side that are really good as well. It's almost like a compound type thing, and then where the Kafe Lise is. But the dam, like you said, Doc, if Time Vault is at the dam, honestly, I'm at the point where it's like I'm not even going. It's like I'll go elsewhere. It's like container could be on the other side of the map. It's like I'm going to go to containers. But I like it for it being diverse. I find even though it does have those kind of like open areas like in the middle, I don't find there's a ton of snipers. And even like in the northeast corner, like for me, that is very reminiscent of Fjell, right? Because you have like that little hut with on top of the rocks, and like it's all rocky in that vicinity. But for me, even though like you can get those solid loot runs, if you don't get those right spawn points, I find like you're just moving a lot. So I'm kind of sticking it in the middle as a B tier. So I like it, but it's there's some reasons too where it's like some games are just weird and like you never see anyone, and like the loot's kind of gone because where you spawned and whatnot. So
right,
So yeah,
that's fair.
That's where I'd put Kjerstin, B tier. Next, Sagbruk. Okay, so Sagbruk, everyone knows best map for chems. It is a smaller lobby. It's basically shaped like a triangle. it is kind of diverse, where it's like you have quite a bit of wooded areas, but then you have like a big open area in the middle, and then you have like the big sawmill at the bottom, and then you have the fisherman's village all the way on the east side. You like, for me, it's like it doesn't matter where you spawn. It's like you could have like a decent loot run just by knowing the map. So for me, loot, it's up there. It's like one of the top maps. Loot value wise, it's probably like second in my opinion to Dverg. But for me, like everyone wants the chems. It is amazing, and even with the loot distribution again, like you get even more fuel because that locked exit again too. Similar to Fisk, it's like if you didn't have like the right spawn points where you were by the oh my god, what's the POY next to, not where the locked exit is, but the little campsite just to the east of it. That always had the fuel you needed to get out.
Yep.
So if you didn't have that spawn point, it's like you're probably out of luck to get the fuel to unlock it. But now you could actually get fuel pretty much throughout the map. So it's like,
yeah, they've really spread it out.
Yeah. So it's been good. They buffed it. So for all these reasons, I love it. Sagbruk, S tier all the way. It's one of my favorite 3 maps. So it is going straight to the top.
Yep. Yeah. Actually, for me too, it's I'm putting it in S tier as well. Like it's one of those ones. It's kind of funny too because when it first came out, I avoided it a long time because I tried it a couple times and I didn't quite get it. And maybe at the time it was because it was new, it was sweatier, and it still can be a pretty sweaty map. It's very combat oriented.
I was going to say, like, when it first came out, it was super campy. Like, I don't want to say like sweaty. I want to say like super campy, where it's like it's probably going to be an exaggeration, but like half the lobby was like hiding in a bush somewhere or something like that. Waiting for someone to come by or whatnot. But yeah, that's a good point. It was kind of interesting when it first came out, because at first I didn't like it, but it definitely grew on me after, I want to say, a season or 2.
Yeah, and I think it's about the same for me too. And then now it's like, I know every inch of that map, and I don't think there's a picture on it that I'm not sure where it is. And even the ones that can be kind of difficult to get to, like the one that's out in the middle of the water, it's a bit of pain.
Oh god,
but it's still I love the map now, and so for me it's an S tier as well.
Yeah. And it's like it's one of those maps, like we talked about, like having a hard time making it across the map if you spawn at one end or the other. It's like this one you can make it. Like I find there is a little bit of difference now with the radiation. I find like it is a little riskier now if you're in the middle and radiation's coming type thing. So you might want to like make sure you have that fuel, or leave a little early. But it is definitely a map you can run across based on like whatever spawn point you have.
Yeah, and there's a lot of good exits with it. It's a great map. And last but not least, Viktorsen. This is probably my all-time favorite map. So it's definitely S tier. I'm not even talking about it. I'm throwing up there at S tier, just because it's all around just a great map. It's great for combat. It's really good for loot. You want wire, this is the one, and you need a lot of wire for some of those high-end builds. So you definitely want to be hitting Vic. It has a lot of great locations, even though, like, I remember when it was like the guest house used to be like one of the best lootable buildings in the game. Even though they changed it, the map is still a great map. And sometimes it's kind of funny when they throw like the signals in a location that it's only going to get used once or twice just because it's so far out. It's just Viktorsen, just part of definitely my favorite map of the game.
Yes, definitely agree. It's the other map that I really enjoy. S tier all the way. You mentioned wire. Like for me, lots of great places for glass as well. All those houses kind of in the middle, by the actual train station and whatnot, and all the houses really, it's diverse because you have like a wooded area, you have like a wide open space around the lakes, you have all the houses. It just, and a ton of electronics too, because there's all those transformer boxes where you can get also wire too. This is the map I got my first threat on too. So but that has nothing to do with that, with the VZ52. But it just plays so good, and it's funny because this one visually it's massive. It has a big lobby, but and I'm going to say like it's gotten a lot sweatier the last couple of years, last couple of seasons I find. But coming back to like map size, like you can still make it say all the way north or south type thing, if you need to run it type thing, because it is kind of flat too, so there are some kind of elevation changes, but it is still kind of runnable. So for me, like I said, it's one of my favorite maps. It's very diverse, great loot, big lobby. So if you do want to go for those kills, there's a lot of them to be had. But yeah, S tier all the way.
Yeah, all the way. And I think this might be the map where I found the most red crates on. Like, I think I found more consistently finding the red crate on this map than others. At least for me. And it's also one where if I find the Polaroid pretty late in a match, I can still feel pretty confident that I can get to it. If as long as the alarm hasn't gone off yet. Like if it's later in the match and I find the Polaroid and it's like I'm in the middle of the map, or not too far from there, and it's say at Resort, I'm just like, okay, yeah, I can make it to Resort, and I'll start running and have a decent chance of making it. So just because the way it is a big map, but it's the way it's sort of laid out. Yeah. But there you go. Those are our rankings.
Yes.
Some similarities, but a lot of differences. So that's kind of cool.
Yeah, there's a few differences.
Yeah.
But let us know, listeners, viewers, what do you guys think of our rankings? And share it. We'll put the link in the description, and we'll tweet it out too. Let us know what you guys think, because I'm curious. It's all about personal preference. Same thing with weapons type thing. So let us know what you guys think, what you guys look for in a map, what makes your favorite map your favorite map.
Yeah, for sure. I don't know I know you can save these tiers. I don't know when you save them if it creates a link that you can share.
Yeah. Well, we'll figure out. Oh, you mean like the screenshot? Yeah, I think it's saved and download, and it does a picture, I believe. But
gotcha. Yeah, I'm just wondering if there's a way for us to share our tiers outside of this, but I'm not 100% sure. If we can, we will. But yeah, there you go. So yeah, that's pretty much it. That's the episode.
Yep.
So that was fun. That was fun.
I like doing this.
I like that. That was kind of neat to do, and we'll definitely do something more like that in the future. I like doing the tier list. I like the visual representation. Before we're just talking about different guns and where we would rank them, but now it's like, okay, this is here, and here. So that works.
Well, it works out well too, because they buffed all the machine guns after we did the machine gun episode, right? And I think it was literally like the last episode of that season that we had done. So it was like, oh, come on. It's like the same thing with the challenges. We revamped the challenges. But it's all good. So maybe at some point we'll do the machine guns in this, just like all the other classes or whatnot. But anyways.
Yeah. No, for sure. And I know it's a kind of a visual thing too, us doing the tier list like that. So if you're listening through audio, at least we told, we gave a letter as we were doing it too, of what was what. But we'll definitely try to find a way to share the screenshots or something in the description or whatever if we can. I'll look into it. But anyways, but thanks for listening and watching. Again, please like, share, subscribe. We do appreciate it. And So the next episode will be, obviously this one's a little late, but it'll try to be the normal schedule again. So after this, like a week and a half away kind of thing when we record the next one. So try to get back to our regular schedule. I think we said that before too. I think there's a couple times where we've missed or been a bit late or missed an episode. And so, but now we're getting into the fall, summer's over, hopefully things are calming down a little, even though a certain Mr. Someone here had a big announcement that he did on his stream and in Twitter.
So we're expecting we're expanding our shelter, so to speak, and we're expecting another baby boy in March. So
that's awesome. Yeah. Congratulations
on that. I'm not gonna lie, it's like my son. Thank you. I'm not gonna lie, my son hasn't been sleeping the greatest for like the last like month or whatnot, and it's like I kind of miss sleep, but it's still exciting nonetheless type thing. So
in a couple of years you'll have sleep again, maybe.
Oh yeah. Like I figure like next like 4 to 6 years, hopefully, I'll get regular sleep and whatnot. But
yeah. As we watch DJ slowly waste away from
it's like
wrapping enough sleep.
The bags under my eyes are just going to like get bigger and bigger, and like my eyes are just going to like slowly just shut permanently, because it's like my eyelids are getting so heavy now. So
yeah, for sure. Anyways, well, there we go. So again, thanks for listening, and until next time, stay safe in the Outlands. Have a great night.
Bye.
Lost your way again. You don't see your reflection. chance and flame up your dream. I know you'll find your way. You must be calm anyway. Grab your chance and flame up your dream. Flame up